How you doing? Live from the streets of Kansas City in the heart of America. It's a like 2 degrees below freezing, cold but pretty morning. Everybody in this town is buzzing and excited about something that's going on in Florida. I don't know. It's like red alert in this town. Because everything seems to be red. All these red lights everywhere. And I have no idea. Well, let me turn this around so you can see what I'm looking at. Driving into the Plaza. A fairly high-end shopping district in Kansas City. Although there's a lot of stores in there that are pretty pricey, but there's a lot of bargains can be found there too. A lot of regular stores. I guess compared to some cities in the country, this isn't really high end at all. Might even be considered low end. But it's like the first shopping center of its kind that was ever designed and built. It was designed pretty much for automobile traffic. Oh, brr. I've just started the car, so it still hasn't warmed up yet. You know, it's got an automatic climate control, and a lot of cars, even the lower end cars, have this kind of thing nowadays. And it won't even start putting out the fan won't even start going until the heat builds up. So you just have to kind of chillax, and I do mean chill. Lots of road destruction going on in the city. I think most of this is fiber optics and water projects. Yep, I saw KC Water, so this is KC Water, and I think the fiber optics might be because the fiber optic company is taking advantage of the water department digging up the street, but don't quote me on that one. It would be a first if somebody comes in, digs up the street, and then puts in an all new street and repairs it. And then a week later, somebody else comes along and digs trenches through that and ruins the street. And the funny thing is, it's usually the water department is the most guilty of that. There's construction equipment all over town. You forgive me. This is my nighttime, and I'm not going to get much sleep. It's a very unfortunate thing. Last Thursday, one of the fathers at our church had a stroke. Hi, I'm fine. How are you? It's interesting how I don't see the count on there, but obviously somebody is watching. Usually a little counter will tell me that there's a person on there, but this time it isn't doing that. Anyway, one of the fathers at our church has had a stroke last week, and and he didn't make it. So there's a funeral, and so I have to get ready for that. I'm live streaming it. And I've been experimenting. I got a new camera that I ordered way back in September, but due to the beer flu, Black Magic. Can you say me name Saad Ali? Is that right? Am I pronouncing it right? And where are you from? I'm supposing it's somewhere. Is that Arabic? Yeah. Anyway, I'm live streaming the funeral mass for. He's a Redemptorist father, so there are other Redemptorist missions and churches that he served in, and they would like to see. I'm from Oman. Oman. Let me see. Where does my brother-in-law work? He works in. I don't know where he works. I was going to say UAE, but I don't think that's right. He works somewhere that's very, very wealthy as an engineer. And he is from the Philippines. He has spent many, many months away from his family working overseas so he can make enough money to support his family. If he were working, he was working in the Philippines. He worked for a concrete company, and they shut down all the branches where he worked and laid him off, so he had to go work overseas. So it's a kind of a sad time, but also I'm happy to have use that some of my talents at least can be productive and helpful. I've been wondering, in the Second American Civil War, the war to free the slaves, there was a time when, I don't know if you could say war was actually declared. Did we declare war on the South? No, not really. It was it wasn't a war between the United States. If you look at it, it wasn't a war between the United States and another country. It was a war to put down an internal insurrection. So do you declare that kind of war? And so I'm wondering, when do we come to terms with the idea that we are fighting a war, a civil war? Because I think that it won't be a large-scale organized conflict. It'll be more like little terrorist type operations, just as if, having isn't bad enough, and poverty and drugs, we have to deal with numbnuts who are essentially trying to do the work of foreign adversaries in our country. And I mean, there are countries that would love to see other nations not succeed because that's the way they're going to try and succeed. That doesn't work. Just like in life, when you are completely negative and you push other people down to build yourself up, it just doesn't work very well. Eventually, I only wish that the United States would re-engage with the world, because the way we are going to win internationally is by investing internationally. And my relationship to the world, I'm mostly closely associated with the Philippines, and they're building massive building projects that should be happening there. Roads and water systems and things like that. And the country that would invest in that can get a really good stake on a good investment in a crossroads of the world where international trade has to pass through. And the United States just kind of like doesn't seem to want to be involved in that. And yet we have the Chinese encroaching into that area of the world, pushing their borders and pushing their government on everybody else. And we show up with fleets and aircraft carriers and things like that. Ooh, very impressive. But what we should be doing is showing up with investments, lifting people out of poverty, letting them know, that we are truly their friends, that we care about their welfare and uplifting them. And when you do that, wherever the United States has done that, I mean, geez, take a look at Japan. We soundly defeated them in World War II, and they were a very, very, very proud warrior nation. And when we first occupied Japan, we didn't think there was going to be any way that this was ever going to work, because the Japanese, as far as we knew, were very warlike and would rather kill themselves than submit to any foreign invader. But we had this one of the greatest foreign investment plans we had ever come up with was called the Marshall Plan. And we invested in our defeat in Germany and Japan. We invested in all the countries that have been devastated by war. And within 10 years, they were bouncing back like never before. I mean, with our investment and their ability proved to be very resilient. They came back, and when they came back, they were grateful. Now contrast that with what happened after World War One, when the Allies just kind of went, well, we won, and so we're going to take everything, and we're going to just destroy your economy and give you no hope. And well, in 20 years, you're fighting an even more destructive war with the same people. You know, 70, 80 years after the war ended with Japan, we have become great friends and terrific allies in the region. And the same is true with Germany. We had taken over the western part of Germany, and within 10 years we ended the occupation, and their economy was bouncing back and better and stronger than ever. Meanwhile, just over on the eastern side of the country that was occupied by the Russians, the Soviets, they were living in poverty, in a police state, and pretty much in fear of the day that Russian troops and tanks would be unleashed on them and everyone else. And what has changed? The Russians, well, I don't mean to say the Russians, not necessarily the Russian people, but the Kremlin, the leadership of Russia, they have not changed their attitude one iota. It's the same people. They have just taken over a democratic, free Russia and have turned it into a feudal version of the Soviet Union. And they are still stomping around. We're going to fight a war, we're going to do this, and causing trouble everywhere. And even trying to cause trouble here. I mean, literally, we're seeing at a time when if we don't find a way to fight this, we're going to be fighting this here in our streets. And now we have fifth columnists in America quizzling the Q movement, QAnon, which to me Q stands for quizzling, traitors, trying to start a coup and a civil war here in the United States because they're buying a bunch of BS that is most probably coming right out of the Kremlin. If you don't make an effort to read and study history and try and understand it, I mean, it's not always easy to understand, and I can't say that I understand it completely myself. But if you try, then you become a better person for it. And if you travel, I guess it's hard for some people to travel, and I should feel sorry for some of these people. But it's hard for some people to travel when they're living in their mommy's basements, or they're spending 17 plus hours a day on a computer trying to hunt for blood-sucking, Satan-worshipping pedophile Democrats. I didn't turn the camera when I did it, but when I said it, one eyebrow rose and one eyebrow went down. like complete astonishment at what people are willing to believe. And it's obvious. I mean, you look at history repeating itself over and over and over again. The same tactics are being employed all over any country that comes into conflict with the Kremlin, and all over Eastern Europe, and even into Western Europe. The same kind of tactics: election interference, psychological warfare operations, cyber warfare, and then outright warfare with what they call a low intensity conflicts, simmering civil war that is not really civil war. It's actually an outright invasion by Kremlin troops. I mean, I'm serious when I say that these people are opening the door wide and saying, come on in. We want you to invade because we're such bad bigots. We would rather have foreign soldiers on our troops to help us fight our real enemies. People who are different than us. And I'm like, well, if you don't like the people in your own country because they're different from you, wait till you see the Russian soldiers. As you know, there are a lot of nice Russian people, but there are a lot of not nice Russian people who happen to be traveling and touring Europe, especially the eastern parts of Europe. And we had some mostly male Russians, and it that if you are an American and you travel to the eastern parts of Berlin, and the further out you go into eastern Germany, you'll run into Russian tourists, quote unquote tourists, and they'll try and start fights with you. Just because you're an American. And that's one thing I really disagree with the Obama administration on. I hope the Biden administration does better. Definitely disagree with the Twitler administration, because they wouldn't. They were friends with the Kremlin. But the Obama administration was kind of like hands off when it came to overseas things. And we really need to be more active. I don't mean active as in like reaching for our big club and beating people over the head or threatening people with it, which is our military. No, I mean active as in investing overseas, doing things to make sure that the American presence is known and felt all over the world. Not as an imperial colonial venture, but as as something that is mutually beneficial to everyone involved. When we help other countries build infrastructure, then we open up trade and opportunities for them, which in turn opens up opportunities for us. A symbiosis, as opposed to the exploitative colonialism of the 17th, 18th, 19th centuries and into the 20th century. anyway, I've ranted. It is time for me to put this to bed, and thank you all for tuning in, and please like, subscribe, and ring the bell so you can be notified whenever I post something or go live. So until then,